Here we are, Charles. We are live.
Hey, gang.
Aloha, everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. Oh, let me get my light here. Get a little bit more. Boop, there we go. Hope everybody's having a good hump day, Wednesday.
Yep.
Let me get my stuff going here.
Is there a?
Boom.
It sounds like a playback, yeah, on your side.
I cannot hear 'em.
Yeah, it's coming over. It's an echo.
Check,
Okay,
check.
now the thing gone.
Still okay
Now
now?
it's gone. Yep.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir, brother. How you doing
Right.
today?
All right. Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, here we go, everybody. All right, looking all good. Everything's working. Aloha Friday, everybody.
I don't think so.
It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, and we apologize for conflicting with the um, council forum going on tonight with the I forget the what the place what community coalition or something like that. I apologize. I was watching it for a little while, but thank you for joining us. We have a amazing show planned tonight. There's been a lot of talk, Charlie. I mean, a lot of talk and a lot of posts from Charlie. Charlie is on it like a hornet, man. I tell you. But we've been talking about this for months. It's gonna be a year, Charlie. We're gonna be still having a discussion. That's my prediction. The
Oh
way
yeah.
we're running this thing, we're gonna be here. It's gonna be a year, man. But anyway, let's just get onto the topic because our guest tonight is a qualified expert, microbiologist. He's a virologist, smart guy. And but we've been talking about how we're gonna isolate Kauai, Hawaii, and all of that. And as we saw the numbers today, another spike in the numbers, 160 or so cases today.
Mm-hmm.
Right after Honolulu mayor decided he was going to open everything up again and almost everything up, and then I don't know what this guy's going to do. He's going to be going tier one, tier two, tier one, tier two, bouncing back and forth. Because that's what this virus does. When it spreads, it spreads, and then when you get a handle of it, it comes down, and then it spreads again. And October
Yep.
15th, where we're having the Trans-Pacific flights opening up, what do they think is going to happen? We've heard it time and time again from expert after expert. Well, tonight we brought on a guy that's going to explain not just about the one test system versus the two tests, but what options, what solutions do we have right now that we could implement if we had the political will? If we weren't so concerned about opening the gates for tourism, we
Mm-hmm.
could we could have some solutions in place right now. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. But it's going to be interesting. I watched the news tonight, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
The state director, the state lab, the director was on, and I wish I had written his name down. You guys all see him. He looked kind of like one mini Santa Claus, one skinny Santa Claus.
Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, yeah. He came out and flatly said, "Hey, you know what? He wished that we would have a second test with a short quarantine after their arrival." They spoke to the epidemiologist from Queens Medical Center, Queens Hospital, uh, one of the top hospitals in the state, and she too said she had concerns about the one test system because these flights can be very contagious, and you could test negative. You could come on the plane, get positive from another passenger, or you could be a silent positive. In other words, you could have that virus, but didn't have it long enough to test positive. So you tested negative, got on the plane, and in the process of that flight and landing in Hawaii and going on your merry way, now you become positive. May not have come from the airplane itself, could have been from where you came from, could have been from anywhere. So there is some major concern about that, and it was nice to hear tonight the state lab director as well as the epidemiologist from Queens both say they would feel better with a second test. So it's not
Well,
just Mel and Charlie, and it's everybody, man.
well, yeah. Since 3 o'clock this morning, I've been blasting away with the posts. I've been tagging you, Mel, so you can see everything that I've been putting up. And basically, what I've been saying was more so for businesses on Oahu. It's because, and I was doing it even before the test results came out, because I want to know what causes a certain knee jerking reaction from the city and county of Honolulu, right? Because there are certain guides when you hit certain thresholds, it puts you into a certain tier. And I always said, because the contact tracing program was not applied correctly, when you have a business, my question has always been, the business gets penalized because why? They do such a good business, they get a lot of people. Because we're under the impression that a lot of people equates to spread of virus. That's the reason why the business gets shut down. And it's no fault of the business. It's just that the business was very effective. And I wanted somebody just to answer me, because Maui had a similar incident where a mall got an infection, but the surrounding malls were not shut down. It was just that particular mall. It was disinfected. It was shut down for X number of hours. Then it was opened up for business again. They did it the right way. And that's all I'm saying. How come they can do it that way? And they're doing everything by the numbers. To roll the dice and shut everything down, one or two things. Either you don't know what's happening, or you're just damn lazy. That's all it is to it. You're damn lazy, because remember we talked about that placard system? It would have been the best, perfect scenario for businesses. Now we come across this threshold where we're talking about opening up to outside travelers, and one has to ask, what in the heck is the advisory committee saying? And I tell you what, Mel, if people do get sick, it's on them, because look what happened with the state veterans home again. One more, they're up to 28 now, right?
Yep.
They're up to 28. Even though it says 26, they're still doing the confirmation, but we know they're up to 28. And not to ditch on anyone, but to hear a whistleblower that had a distorted voice on KITV to say that sometimes they don't have PPEs and all that. Well, my question is, you don't have those things. It's very important. You're dealing with fragile individuals. Why did you still decide to go in, knowing that you might be contaminated? So there's so many frustrating things.
No,
But
in football they call it the Hail Mary. When you give up, just throw the ball and just hope somebody on your team catch them. Plenty can go wrong. Plenty can go wrong, but you
yep,
hope. And most of the time it doesn't work. Most of the time it does not work. And
yep,
I don't like. I don't even play dice in Vegas. Uh, I don't like crapshoots, man. I don't think that's a sign of leadership. When you just, if you're a risk taker, you're an entrepreneur, that's a different story. But when you're
yep.
dealing with people's lives and other people's money, uh, no, you don't mess around like that. You don't take stupid chances like that. You don't figure out. Look, you gotta be objective, and that's what's lacking. I mean, it makes no sense, right? The tier system come up. Now this guy he's caught now. Mayor Caldwell is stuck. What is he gonna do now? He going shut everybody back down? If the numbers go back to 200, he going much tell everybody, oh sorry, oops, I goofed, shut down again.
If he
Rather
does
than
that,
get a handle of this thing once and for all, get a damn handle on it. Meaning, do what we've been doing prior to the spikes, and then you got to deal with this new source of virus that'll be coming in after October 15th. What does he think is going to happen? I feel sorry for Charlie. I tell you who I feel sorry for. See, like for us, I can wear a mask. I can stay at home as much as I want, and I go to work. I be real careful. I'm not gonna be around no damn tourists. I feel
mm,
sorry for the people that got to go work in those hotels. that's where my heart breaks for, because they got to go back to work. They have that, they got to go. They're loyal to their hotel. They got to make their money for their families because the job is now available. They cannot get unemployment. That's who I feel sorry for, because they are going to be placed in a potentially dangerous situation. So that's who I, all these decision makers that call in the shots that don't have to deal with it. Um, they don't care. My fear is these employees, the employees that's got a number one choice.
Hey, let's
Really,
share this now. Let's make sure you all share this tonight, gang. Please, if you can, share this. Here we go. Share this.
oh,
Make sure you share. Okay.
man, there he goes again. This is what you share. Share the show.
Yeah, there you go. Share. Yeah.
No, just bring them, Patrick. Just bring them. I'm not gonna eat them, but just bring them.
Oh, look at this. Share this if you can.
Charlie,
What is that?
man, it's cookies, man. White chocolate macadamia nut cookies, fresh out of the oven.
Oh
Ha!
man.
You know, Charlie, you know how bad influence you are. I went in
Yeah.
Icebox. It was last night, I think, or the night before last, and I had the
Uh-huh.
big Hershey bar. But the Hershey bar wasn't just a Hershey bar; it was a Hershey bar with Reese's Pieces inside.
Ooh.
Oh my God! Anyway, we got Doctor Alderete. We're gonna bring him in because they're getting hungry. Let me find him. I hope he's still here. Share this right now, people. Hit the share
Yep.
button right now. This is gonna be some awesome, awesome information for you. Ooh, yeah, we got our high tech.
Here we go. High tech. Please share.
Hey, aloha, Doc. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Aloha
Thank
to
you
you
so
both.
much. Man, that picture I put up on the graphic was made you look a little like a gangster, man. You look more professional right now. You look
No,
My,
really
my
no.
good.
wife, my wife chided me for not allowing her to choose the picture. I said, "Well, that's what you get for letting me choose the picture." She's like, "You're so serious," and I'm like, what can I say?
Oh, it's
You,
like
you, know, you know you
wow,
know what
man.
it looked like, Mel? I saw the picture and I said, "Hey, that's the guy in the Narco series, on Netflix."
Yes, yeah,
Yes, Narco.
that's
All the shows that I watch, maybe I'm emulating. Who knows?
man, that's what it looked like. I was thinking, I wonder if I should even use this picture, but that's
Yeah.
the only one I had. And
That's okay. I think it's the one I sent you, so I'm the one to blame.
okay, yeah, because there's a few on the internet on Google, but man, I look angry. You look angry, so that was a nice picture. But anyway, thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you joining in, and
Of
we
course.
kind of told the viewers what who you were and what we're going to be talking about. But we'll let you. Charlie. Remember Charlie from the last time?
Of course. Absolutely. Good to see you both.
Same here.
He looks like from those movies too. He looks like the guy. Anyone cigar and a little dog, and then he could be the Godfather type character, like leading the
Hey,
charge.
what you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
Anyway,
Perfect.
Doc, why don't you start by introducing yourself again? Tell us who you are, what you do, and then let's talk story.
So I live here full time in Kapa'a, first of all, and the pinging that you hear is I'm going to say aloha to my team out in Seattle who's following this. So I just muted them because I'm sure they're going to tell me what mistakes I'm making as I'm talking to you. I live here in Kapa'a with my family. My son goes to school here, and this is our home. I am a microbiologist by training. I am a virologist, more specifically. I did my work out at the University of Washington and Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center. I opted to go into the business of science rather than being a dedicated full time scientist. And I have an MBA as well. And I essentially have helped companies design products or buy products or other companies, but I do that for myself now. So we have a development team out in Seattle that is in medtech, and we develop medical devices and diagnostics specifically in the infectious disease space.
Oh,
Are you a
perfect.
politician? Are you a
I am
politician?
not a politician, and
Okay.
that may prove problematic later. But I am not a politician.
All right, all right. Well, we did chat a little bit about about the what the current goings on here in Hawaii and opening on October 15th for travel and the state's this decision to go ahead with a one test pre-departure test uh, system and get a negative test, you got a free ride. You get to Hawaii, you're quarantine free. I, as we've discussed, we've spoken to many people. We have yet to find anyone outside of the state leadership that agrees with that philosophy or that theory. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight. Just your thoughts on that, your thoughts on the risk of traveling and possibly picking up the virus in an aircraft. We just saw that on the news tonight. Queens Hospital epidemiologist, they did a segment on her talking about the dangers of flying and how easy it is to catch the virus in the bathroom of the plane. It was pretty profound, and it was just the timing was awesome. It was half an hour ago, probably half an hour ago. So and then if we can kind of into the discussion talk about what's available for us now if the state decided to, hey, or the counties, we want to do a second test. Is it possible? Are there resources and stuff like that? So take it away, my friend.
Well, I think you've had plenty super distinguished and highly talented people on your show explaining why the one test approach is not adequate. So I'm not going to repeat that. I am happy to answer any questions. And because I do exist in the diagnostic space, if there are questions that either of you have or listeners have about the testing world, I'm happy to talk about that too. The issue that you brought up, we can talk about the politics of the one test sort of, I guess, as we go along. But the issue that we have really is understanding how the biology of this virus behaves, and exactly as you pointed out, how you can acquire this virus in transit, in close confines with other people on a plane who may or may not be fully wearing masks or compliant. And I don't have to prove this to you. You don't have to prove this to anybody. The data is out there. And I think, it's important to note that just yesterday, there was a Reuters article talking about how Europe is going to require rapid antigen testing prior to boarding at that moment, not 72 hours before, but at that moment. And that is part of the correct approach. You need to test people right there. As we call it, venue-specific testing. And the FDA is very interested in doing what we sort of refer to as high frequency and continuous testing, daily testing. And this is really how we're going to be able to tackle this in lieu of the tests that already exist out there, like PCR. PCR has a place. It's not appropriate for multiple day testing. It's too expensive. It takes too long. By the time you get the results, it's almost irrelevant. And also the conditions by which we are being sort of forced to test people, that is where they're symptomatic, is not very helpful. So as we move to more sort of continuous testing, this is really where this is going to take effect. Now, the problem I have with the 3-day testing is we've been in lockdown since April, March? I don't remember anymore. March. And we've had multiple months, each month with more information and data from other countries who have been through this worse than we have, about why testing is so important, why opening up too soon is so disastrous. And we seem to have squandered the opportunity in our isolation and our protection, right? Because we haven't allowed people in, and we were in a bubble that is about to be burst pretty significantly. And it boggles my mind, given that we have this wealth of information, that we effectively have leadership in whatever capacity who either seem oblivious to the information that's out there or wantingly ignoring it. And it was my hope that when we had change of leadership at the Department of Health, that we might move past some of the stumbling blocks that we had seen to increased testing and some of the excuses that we have been told. And that remains to be seen with the interim director. And I do think that sort of evaluation of the Department of Health down to the county levels is important as well. I am not convinced that the information that is being provided to the public is wholesome. And I'm not convinced that we're analyzing this in the way that should be done to properly and safely open up our islands. That's my personal belief. So, having said that, we do know that we always felt, we being myself as a virologist and other people in the community here who have talked to you prior, like the COVID discussion group that I was a part of on a previous show, have felt that this is going to be a rapidly changing landscape. It's going to be complex at first, but it's going to improve as better technologies come out. And those technologies are more than likely going to be these rapid antigen tests that you've been reading about. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about that, because I think there are some misconceptions about what this means and what kind of tests they are. So what we had hoped to see from leadership was to develop a fully robust plan, knowing that it was complex and cumbersome and maybe expensive, but that this would change over time, that we had the opportunity to set practices in place that would become easier over time as the availability of these different, better, faster tests became available. And basically, what, in my opinion, what we have seen is what I have seen, in my opinion, are resources that exist at the state and at the government level that our leadership doesn't want to commit to doing what we need to do to make this safe. I have seen that the expertise exists that our leadership doesn't want to use in developing a plan. Any test is a mitigation effort, and any test is better than nothing. My personal fear is that what we see happening currently with the proposals that are being bantered around, even on this island, is that our political leadership is going to say, hey, we tried, we did our best, and then when it doesn't work, they can wash their hands of it and just let the pieces fall where they may. And that to me is inexcusable given the level of knowledge and expertise that we have available to make proper choices.
Hey, Doc, let me interrupt real quick because there was something that the Lieutenant Governor said on his morning news thing this morning, and they were again talking about the testing and the one testing, and they asked about what was it going to be available. There's a big concern now because kids won't get tests. Most of the agencies or the stores or pharmacies, whatever, are not going to give these tests to kids. But he said he was working with other vendors and other organizations, and they were getting real close to a mail-in test, which that scared me tremendously. There is no there. What the heck is a mail-in test?
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example through some groups that we have talked to. I can't mention names, but a significantly large Division One sports university has their students, before they arrive on campus, send in a sample, mail in a sample to a large lab like Quest Labs, for example, and then they get the results back, and so they can show up on campus with a piece of paper with their results. We have the same sort of issue with that as we would with our 72 hours prior to boarding, right? You kids can go wherever in the meantime and expose themselves, which is why the school also implements a more rigorous weekly testing program. So I'm not too worried about mail-in, but that's more sort of back-end surveillance than it is sort of front-end intervention. Right. And it's more reactionary, right, than being proactive. So that doesn't really work for me. I think it's part of a solution, but it is not the solution.
Doc, it's always been, and you said it clear in the beginning. I don't really care for the politics either, but it seems to be that that gatekeeper politics seems to be the gatekeeper to everything that's in front of us now. And until such time it erases itself, then we can get into the science of it, where that's where the bread and butter is going to be at, right? Trying to get the testing done and making sure, because we talked about this before. We said 72 hours, you get a clear pass. Anybody can contaminate you and nothing's going to happen because you got that Willy Wonka, that golden candy bar, or whatever you want to call it, that piece of paper that gives you a free pass. So let me ask you about one of the tests that's been touted, and see what your take is on it. And that's that, is it the COVID ID now, the card, the COVID
Oh, this is Abbott's test, right?
right.
So okay, so do you want me just to wax philosophical about that, or did you have a
Yeah.
specific question?
No, just
I think one of the best things that Abbott did for this sort of point of care testing or venue-specific testing was prove to the world that you don't need a reader to use a rapid test. I mean, I believe this, and in fact, the test that we've developed for this virus doesn't use a reader either, it's visual. And Abbott did a phenomenal job in proving that, so kudos to them. It's unfortunate to me, and this is a totally different rabbit hole, I don't really want to go down it, but their whole development and introduction of their product to the world is political. And that is what it is. But we're hoping that we're able to see the levels of production that they suggested would happen, and we'll see. Is the short end of that. The issue that I have with several of the antigen tests, and part what you see with Quidel or other tests currently, is you've seen them move to very specific patient types. And for example, Quidel is now in nursing homes. Well, why are they in nursing homes? Well, that's a very contained patient population, and they can increase their sensitivity and specificity numbers with patients who they can detect as positive and symptomatic. And that has been a challenge for a lot of these rapid tests in that they haven't performed as well to get to the asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic people, which is really where you want to capture. Because by the time you're symptomatic, hopefully you're talking to your doctor about why you feel so bad, and you're being contained that way. So I am very hopeful that the Abbott test comes out. Look, I can tell you that the numbers of rapid tests that are projected by groups that we have talked to who know way more about the space than I do in efforts in trying to open up the economy, we're talking about 10 to 100 million tests a month in the US alone. That's a phenomenal volume of tests. So what that means is that we need more players than just Abbott in the mix or us. There's going to be a whole bunch of groups that have to move into this space to help us take care of this. The issue that we're facing, and again, politics is polluting this, is there is a lack of understanding on the manufacturing side of how much to scale up. This costs money to scale up. We're talking about production of tests that we've never seen before. And companies that are looking to the future about how much capital they want to put into this are saying, well, we're being promised a vaccine in a short period of time. So how long is this disease actually going to be around? Why should we ramp up production? And that's a legitimate, serious discussion happening behind the scenes. And it's kind of problematic for us because it's sort of assuring that we're never going to get to the levels of tests that we need.
Yeah, I can see the apprehension of putting money into a project that's not going to be around. I don't want to get into the vaccine discussion because it's another whole crazy topic. What are your thoughts on, as a virologist, what are your thoughts on the safety of flying in a plane?
I wouldn't do it. As a virologist and as a father and a husband, I wouldn't do it. It's just it's as simple as that. And we could talk about numbers, we can talk about the epidemiology, we can talk about levels of transfer and whether or not it's aerosolized. I think the problem that I have generally, and the problem that we have as a society, is that we have a fairly poor compliance rate in the sense that obviously there are people out there who don't feel that it's the inconvenience, for example, of wearing a mask or taking precautions supersedes the safety of others. And as long as that exists, we are only as safe as our weakest link. And if they're the weakest link, then I have personally no need to expose myself to it. And I would highly recommend that people consider that problem as well.
Yeah, when I heard the epidemiologists, and it was, how they edit the video. So they put the video clip of going into a airplane bathroom when she was saying, yeah, just, you're going to go into a bathroom right after someone just came out. You don't know what they did in there. They could have coughed or sneezed and you walking right into it. And then it became visual for me. And it's like, ooh, it's not just sitting on your seat with your mask and your shield for 6.5 or 7 hours. It's at some point you got to go to the bathroom.
For the most part, we have immune systems, right? We're exposed to bugs all the time in various forms. I mean, even in our soil, we have bacteria who are opportunistic pathogens that can cause problems, for example. But we're not talking about a normal situation here. we're talking about a virus that's easily transmissible that has significant consequences to human health if you acquire it. And that's really the issue here. We're not talking about normal life anymore. It's disgusting enough to have to go to an airplane bathroom without having to worry about acquiring a disease that you may carry the consequences of for the rest of your life.
Well, heaven forbid, because if you have to go to the bathroom and you got to try remain, you have to number two, and you got to remain contactless. I don't know how the hell you're gonna do it.
You're not gonna do them. You're not gonna do them in that airplane. That's for sure.
You're just gonna turn purple and just wait for 6 hours until you land. That's about it.
Absolutely.
So, someone asked about the, and I'm going to ask this because we're on the subject of the airplane, about the surgical mask. Is that surgical mask safe for SARS COVID-19? Does it keep out? Okay, it says, ask him if the surgical mask can stop SARS-CoV-2 virus from penetrating the mask, since the virus has much smaller particulates than a mask can stop.
Let me see if I can answer this with an analogy that somebody sent to me, and it's a little crude, but I think it makes the point. But first, let me just say, wearing a mask is always better than not wearing a mask, regardless of what kind. Okay, let's just leave it at that. And yes, technically, some masks can block or filter out smaller particles than others. So we don't need to get into that. But let me see if I can give an appropriate analogy. And I apologize ahead of time. This is not X-rated, but you imagine you have two people standing next to each other, and both of you guys are not wearing pants. And one guy A, decides to pee on guy B's leg. Well, guy B gets the full brunt of guy A's pee. Well, now let's say that guy A is still pantless and guy B is wearing pants and he pees on your leg. Okay, so you have a little bit more protection. But now guy A is wearing pants and you're wearing pants and guy A decides to pee, it's only going in his pants. So what you're really trying to do is you're really trying to spread the droplets and the aerosol from trying to escape a person who is actively shedding virus. And if that has a factor, whatever that is, a protection, if you multiply that by 2 because you both are wearing masks, that's always going to be better, always, than nothing. Is it going to be foolproof? No, but that's the extent of it. Sorry about the analogy. It's a horrible analogy.
No, actually, it's a great analogy. Again, I'm a visual type of guy. So
I have been wondering,
honey, get my pants, please.
I have been waiting for weeks to figure out where am I going to use this. So thank you guys.
This is the place. And by the way, the news media watches this, and
fantastic.
You may see it on the 5 o'clock news tomorrow. That is an awesome analogy. I got to tell you, man, that is so that does it for me and for I think a lot of people.
He beat my analogy by a long shot.
I'm almost afraid to ask. I really am.
Got to share now.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, it all depends. You and your friend got a mask, right? And you're standing next to each other, and your friend cuts a fart, and you're still able to smell it through your mask. That means, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, the particulates got through. The protection wasn't enough. That's another way of looking at it.
Yeah, Hawaiian news now. You won't use that one. Yeah. So, Doc, if you could write, if they came to you and said, "Hey, write us the plan," as it relates to trans-Pacific travel, what would be your recommendation?
So first of all, I'm going to state that this recommendation has already been made with the COVID group that you had on earlier. They wrote a report. I helped write that report. And I'm just going to say, the reason I'm telling you this is for months that plan has existed and has been proposed, right? So it's not like none of this is new. Clearly testing. The more testing, the better. I can't, and I'm not going to tell you specifically test on day 1 and 3. I'm just telling you that there are several factors that need to be taken into consideration. 1, you need to test people frequently. And I don't care how that works. If it's antigen testing and PCR, it doesn't matter. Test people frequently. You have to wear masks. Sorry, just have to wear masks. You have to worry about social distancing. Sorry, pain in the butt, but still have to do it. You have to be able to track people who come to the island who are going to willfully break rules. Sorry, and this includes residents as well. You have to be able to have people check in regularly. You have to be able to have testing easy for people to get to and do, so that it's not a burden, right? You have to make this an easy process to go through. All of these things take effort and time and coordination, and we have seen. I'm going to ask you the question: how much of this have we seen?
Zero.
Okay,
You
zero.
know, I haven't seen anything.
Zero.
I haven't seen anything. You know, I circulated that report to the connections that I had at the legislature, to the lieutenant governor, the Kauai discussion group report. I utilized all my contacts. I really thought that, and not because of me, but I thought that it made so much sense. And in fact, the group testified. I mean, they got to meet and explain this, and our viewers saw it, all thought it was a great idea. I honestly thought, this was, of course, months ago, that it was going to get some traction. Well, it got no traction.
Zero.
And
Absolutely nothing. Nothing happened.
it was, you know, and again, you know, it's clear to me that they don't want to inconvenience the visitor. They don't want to, you know, they don't want to put them through a 6-day quarantine and a 2-test or 3-test process, because it's going to impact the number of travelers that come. Oops. Oh, it's going to impact the number of travelers that come to the state.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me. It pisses me off too, but more than the piss off is the fear that people are going to die because of this. And I know there's a lot of people accuse me and Charlie of fear mongering, and we'll see the hate messages coming out very shortly.
I'm sure.
But it's the truth, and we don't have a handle on this virus. That's pretty clear. Yeah, we get 180, 190, oops, 60, oops, 55, bingo, open them up again, and then the very next day, bam, 160.
So
Couple
here's
months
some
back,
things to consider. Do you know how many ICU beds we have on Kauai?
9 or 11.
So where are we going to ship people off to when we, go over the 9 ICU beds? If you take a look, actually, what's been going on in the Caribbean, you have all of these islands, right? These island states and nations. What is the one country that is not allowed to fly into Caribbean islands right now? Can you guess? United States.
Yeah, I'm
We're
sure.
not allowed to fly there because we have no control over this virus in our general population. And every time any one of those Caribbean islands has opened up to US travel, they've suffered the consequences, and quickly. And I think that's the thing for me that scares me the most, is there is not going to be a reaction time that we have here. We're not New York City with New York City capabilities. We are Kauai, which is pretty damn rural, with our 9 ICU beds. So if we bring in 1,000 people a week, or whatever the numbers are that were projected, I apologize, it's been a long day. We're going to have several thousand people on this island, of which will be guaranteed to bring the virus with them. Guaranteed, no question. And I don't have to prove this to anybody. The math is there, the epidemiology is there. And once that becomes community born, we don't have a way to effectively track it. We don't have a way to effectively contain it. And we're going to start having bigger issues than we ever have imagined. So, if you pay attention to all of the statistics like I do daily, this is my business, I should know this. There is a reason why we decided to deploy our skills to help combat this. We feel in my team that this is a virus that's going to be around with us for a long time. And again, don't want to get into the vaccine discussion, but independent of however you feel on vaccines, it's going to take a while to deploy that as an asset to the US population, the world population, whatever. So now is the time for us to understand. This is my personal plea here, I guess, to you and your listenership. I don't think that we are in a position to worry about hurt feelings right now. I think that we're in a position to make demands and hold accountable to our political leadership, whether that's our departments of health, whether that's our governor, whether that's our mayors of the islands. I have heard stories about how Kauai was so effective in coming together to do things like prevent the high speed ferry coming to this island, that sort of activism. And I think that's what's needed now is a much larger, stronger, angrier voice. We seem to be drowned out. You know, we are there are several people on our committee, for example, are MDs. I'm the scientist, and you know, we're all sort of highly trained and intellectual people, and we're used to a certain decorum, and we exchange ideas and debate things. But we're not the ones marching out in the street demanding that we reopen and not wear masks, right? It's the loudest voice that gets heard. And our voice needs to be heard much louder by our representatives because it's our lives that are at stake. And I think they're forgetting who they represent.
Yep.
So that's my personal plea.
Now, that was the personal plea of Congresswoman Gabbard as well. Keep the noise, raise the level of noise, because that's what we try to do. You know, it's we know that they know what the people believe. Our show gets 2, 3, 4,000, 5. One of our shows, over 25,000 views. They watch it, and they know what the people are saying and how the people are feeling. They all have Facebook accounts. They all see the comments on a daily basis, not on our pages, but on their friends' pages. They know what they should be doing, and that's the scary part about politics, because I trust me, I've been there. I've felt the pressure before from the outside pressure. Charlie knows this quite well because I shared a lot of it with him while I was in the council. For me, it's very easy, just tell the pressure, get away, go away, boo. But for most, it's not. And when you have the mega bucks putting the pressure onto your decision makers enough for them to justify behavior that is unsafe, we got some serious problems.
So what do we do about that? That's the real question. I mean, we know what needs to be done, and it's not happening. So what do we do about it? I don't have an answer to that. But this is what keeps me up at night. My son is at school right now, and he's, I can see the stress in my family. My family lives with me as a microbiologist, so they're already hyper aware of how to behave. But this is taking a toll on everybody. I understand the need for economic opening. I would have hoped that we would have come to some monetization of the assets that we already had on this island. Where are the massive farmers markets, for example? Where is the massive buildup of our own agriculture? Why can't we be more self-supporting? And these are all sort of bigger issues. But nothing has happened. It's literally been the same since we closed. And I have to say that's been the most disappointing for me. I had hoped for something different. That Hawaii is different. And in fact, it's not different at all. Politicians are politicians, regardless of where you are. And from a microbiologist standpoint, the choices that we're making in terms of how to intervene in the spread of this virus, while we have had the benefit of being in a bubble, have really blown my mind.
Well, I had today was one of those days that I felt like, okay, I'll do what I got to do. So I've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning, and I must have put out what, maybe 6 or 7 posts just blasting away at the state administration and the city and county of Honolulu, because police retired cops always see things differently than the average Joe. We always look for that one teaser that flips it into a criminal mode. We're always looking for that. And what I saw in some of these politicians, and this is what I wanted to ask you, a comment was made that, well, we talked about the asymptomatics, how serious it is. CDC said it's so serious. That's why they recommend you wearing your mask, social distance, wash your hands, and avoid large gatherings. But the person who released this said that, yeah, maybe get one in 1,000. I mean, it was so nonchalant that even the comments that night that we were getting on the feed were really bashing hard. We've never seen that before. So what that told us, and Mel and I talked about this after the show, right then and there, those who probably would have voted for this individual coming up probably has taken a second look now because just of what they saw. It was if maybe there was no care for we the people, and I think that's where it's got to be. And we've got some pretty big. I'm looking at the feed. We've got some heavy hitters as far as landowners, large landowners on this that's very interested. And sometimes you got to bring them out because politically they can make a really big statement because a lot of time politicians need something in a way of if they're going to build something, hey, can we get this land? Well, now you get these landowners on here saying, wait a minute, it's been a one-way street all this time. What happened to we the people? So anything that you say, sir, it's taken to heart, and I can see it. I can see it going very,
Yeah,
very strong right now.
I'm not here to cause problems or trouble well, maybe I'm here to stir up the pot a little bit in my frustration. I do understand that this is a complex issue, and that we're all driven by sort of individual agendas. My personal fundamental belief in life: we don't exist here in a vacuum. We are all connected to each other in some form. Even if you don't believe that what happens to your neighbor is important to you, ultimately it is. We all live on this island together, and perhaps more importantly, because we're on an island together, we really do need to think about this differently. This is an unprecedented event in, well, my lifetime, certainly. I think this will be unprecedented for many decades to come, hopefully never again in our lifetime. And we need to treat this in a special way that it is. This is not unique. And if we lose one arm of our economic prosperity in this island, it's going to cascade through everybody. Everybody's going to be affected. So I think we need to have a fundamental shift of how we're thinking about this. I think partly we've gotten a little complacent because here in Kauai in particular, because of the fact that we've been so isolated and haven't had that many cases and they've been contained. So this is complex and it's frightening at the same time. There are no easy answers, but to go back to the beginning, I think I'm mostly disappointed by the lack of progress people who are supposed to be representing us have made.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult balance, the economy and say, and I think we if we had done things differently, if we had contained the virus early on, and had the local economy open up, you can function in a safe manner. Once you isolate this virus, Honolulu, it got crazy for a little while, and they did what they had to do. But for Kauai, for the most part, you're relatively safe. Um, as long as we continue to practice, being safe, we'll be fine. And if everybody takes individual responsibility, it's not that way on Oahu. I know we got a lot of Oahu viewers. I mean, I'm sure our viewers are the ones that wear the mask and social distance, but the ones that don't, I just got a text right now. There's a huge party, pool party right now going on in Poipu. Nobody's wearing a mask. So the complacency, of course, because we don't know the virus. Yeah, the virus is here. I mean, it's here. It's just, it's very low. But that argument about the economy, and we got to get these people back to work. And I think we can. I think you can still operate, but just got to operate safely.
Where is all the CARES money to help build programs that we need to help? I just don't understand any of this. This is why I'm not in politics, because I can't deal with this. I can't deal with the inefficiencies, to be honest with you. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I like getting things done. We decided to do our part with a test that's hopefully coming out before the end of the year. And we're going to have a reckoning in some form or other with each other, with our politicians. I don't know how, but it's coming. And I'm hoping that we can do this in a manner that happens before we have issues that we can't walk back from. Because once we have community spread here, it's going to be very hard for us to contain this with our resources.
Well, we had a, I mean, I hate saying trial run. We did. We had that period of spikes where our hospital beds were full. We're transferring patients from Queens to outside hospitals to open up room for COVID patients. I mean, we had a taste of what this thing can do on a small scale, and
Small
that
scale.
even though the number of cases were small, our resources got eaten up rapidly. And I don't understand what part of that they don't understand. I don't under that we couldn't handle much more. In fact, we were several hospitals, and I know you know this, Doc, but several of the hospitals were closed. They were filled. They were at capacity. And what we had with 300 cases or 400 cases, and we get 1,000 cases, we're done, and we cannot put them in a helicopter and fly them to a neighboring state or county. No, we're done. And 6 to 7 hours to, even if you got a quick plane that can get you there in 5 hours to the West Coast, this virus doesn't do well when people are being flown. It's just this is we're heading for a disaster, and I don't know. I don't know what to do.
I think part of the discussion, somebody reminded me from my team that somebody had a question about resort bubbles, and if I had a thought on that. And as I mentioned, the list of items that need to sort of be holistically deployed to take care of this, whether mask wearing and tracking and testing, having a place to be able to ensure that people are safely being tested and monitored in sort of a quarantine hotel, for example. I know that has been brought up. I don't have the perfect answer, but if we have no way to trace people and they're spread all over the island, that becomes a challenge. And obviously, there are some issues. We can't put tracking devices on people. We have some constitutional issues there, and I would have an issue with that myself. But there has to be a way, whether through an app or some sort of ability to have people check in and trace and do the things that we need to monitor movement and exposure.
Well, we've had the ability before to have these apps, and it was right in the inception of this virus. And the biggest model was South Korea. Everybody was looking at South Korea, how they were handling it. And they had a Hawaii boy who now lives there develop an app that the country uses, and that seems to be working very, very effectively. And to have that app basically given on a silver platter to our state administration for it to be turned down, those kind of things, it's very, very difficult
Yeah,
to
that's
understand.
tricky. That's tricky though, because South Korea as a country can mandate its use, right? We can't do that. We have some issues, constitutional issues, and that's part of the consequence for us being, American, I guess. So we have some unique challenges. They're all addressable, but we do have unique challenges. What I can tell you to offer some glimmer of hope is, and actually I think this has been true since day one. We can absolutely beat this virus, right? If nobody shared this virus with anybody else, the virus would die and go away relatively quickly. So if we avoided pool parties where nobody was wearing masks, if we all wore masks for a period of time, if we all committed to being tested and monitoring, we could get back to normalcy much faster than we think we could, independent of a vaccine. And um, the glimmer of hope, though, is that there are so many groups right now working on either vaccines, therapeutics, other diagnostic tests, that we are going to blanket the world at some point in the ability to diagnose and mitigate this virus. Now, I don't know how that will end up ultimately, whether this virus will fade out like SARS-1 did, or whether we'll live with this seasonally because we just can't get our act together. Who knows? But hopefully, and it's my hope as a microbiologist, that this has increased the awareness for the importance of diagnostics, and we will be better able as a society to manage things, other future diseases that are easily spread. and we will no longer think of things like Ebola as just being simply regional issues. These are all of our issues because of travel is so easy, and we saw this with this virus. Once it got out of China, it was no holds barred really. So that's my hope, and I think we will get there. Is my personal belief.
Well, I think, one thing that is certain, if you look at the comments tonight, when you get a chance to look at them, you'll see that, many of the people on here, they're not virologists like you or microbiologists, but they're people with common sense. And the common sense tells us that, we bring you on, you share the info, we can have a healthy discussion on it. But it's just that the people that are in that power seats, they're going like 180-degree in the other direction, and we're still trying to find out why. I mean, I don't know what makes them tick, but all I know is that when they experience a knee jerking experience, put it that way, they react a certain way, and it's beginning to become more obvious every time it happens. We almost can predict what direction they're going to go into. Why they go into that direction, nobody knows. But that's $1 million question, because in order to apply what everybody's working towards, and that is, to get rid of this virus, those guys, like I said from the onset, the politics is sort of like it's in the way, and at the same time, it's fanning the fire. It's getting bigger and bigger, and that's the scary part of it all. Now, I kind of wanted to change directions a little and ask you about the veterans home and what's happening there on the Big Island. It seems that a lot of us is feeling really bad. I for one, I mean, I don't think anybody who's a senior, their family, it was hard enough putting them in a home, but now just to watch them, wither away because they got the virus, because we're getting at least a death a day in a short period of time. When you have 63 known cases and already you're up to 28 deaths, it doesn't. And I said this to my wife last night, because when I had open heart surgery, the first thing they ask you need a medical directive in case something happened. If you want a DNR, you just want just basic care. You don't want to be resuscitated. Put it down. It almost seems as if the patients themselves have something like that in place because they're just dying every day. What's your read, Doc? What's your read on this?
Well, I'm going to, in some sense, give the caveat that I'm not there. I'm not, part of that treatment plan or anything related to that. My guess is that there was a breakdown in the infection control measures that occurred for that home, and I think, and it's tragic. It is 100% preventable. Washington State had the same issues, as you remember early on. That was devastating to the nursing home communities. And again, entirely preventable. And I think the lesson to be learned here is how quickly, once a breakdown in the process occurs, how quickly a system is overwhelmed. That what you are seeing now with the veterans home is the inability to react to that situation, right? It's really hard to contain it and resolve it now that it's out of the bottle, kind of thing. So it's hard to watch because those of us who are in the business know that it's entirely preventable.
I think you use that horrific situation at that veterans care home, and the same would happen in our communities if our communities were infused with this virus. I mean, you have a capacity. And this virus is so bad, so I cannot stand people that talk about this as if it's the common flu. They don't know this. When it gets into a person that's vulnerable, elderly or have immune issues, it's hard to stop. And death is, it's just one of those things that if it was if it was a different type of care home with less vulnerable people, the results would be different. But
well, I think there's plenty of there's the medical evidence for what happens to people infected with this virus, the database is growing all the time, right? So we're adding new information about the consequences of the infection with this virus, and it doesn't seem to be limited to any particular group. Let's ask elite athletes 10 years from now what has happened to their oxygen absorption after they've been infected. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to learn along the way. So it's confounding to witness the sort of lack of robust discussion around this, to be honest with you, because it's so consequential. Oh, the point I was thinking about is the people that are the most problematic that we're not able to address because of testing guidelines are the asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic individuals. Those individuals who show no symptoms, they may never have symptoms, but they're actively spreading virus, in our communities. And we have no effective way to test for this right now. We've been told by our own government agencies, you only test people who are symptomatic. That's all you do. And you need a prescription to do that anyway. So this is particularly problematic. Without robust testing protocols, without robust adherence to those testing protocols, what you will continuously see time and time again are veterans' homes examples.
It kind of takes me back to the discussion of the bubble, the resort bubble, because we know now that it's tough to track people that are out and about. We know. In fact, someone posted that they were on 12 days of quarantine. They got one text asking if he was okay. No visits. And yet Kauai, our standard is much higher than the other counties, but you cannot get to all of them. But if we had a bubble and the bubble was, there was a geofence around this property that they could stay in. And if there was multiple testing, if there was a requirement to be tested, not the PCR every day, but get an antigen test or some sort of, test. I remember Dr. O'Carroll saying, some tests don't have the, what was it called? What's the
sensitivity or specificity?
Sensitivity.
Yep.
So you could, if you're testing every day, you could accept less sensitivity, because the more you test with less sensitivity, you're going to find the positive at some point. And
yeah. So I think as a developer of tests, I would never claim to build a test with less than optimal performance and count on multiple testing to sort of get me past poor performance of my test. The test that we're developing, we want to be, as sensitive as possible, and we're doing our best efforts to do that. We fully understand that even with daily testing, you're going to get some breakout of people who are going to escape the testing regimen. And that's fine if you have protocols in place to help contain community spread, right? We expect that no test will be 100% accurate. That's just a given. No test is. Right. So if we have all of the other containment processes and monitoring processes in place, it becomes manageable. If we have none of that in place, I don't care how many tests you do. If you have people who break out who have the virus, then the whole system again becomes overwhelmed. It may take a little longer, but it still happens. I do want to point out a point that my friend and colleague made, that one of the more tragic elements to this, and this is absolutely devastating to witness, for many people who have suffered from this virus and have died from it, is that they have died alone because they have not been able to have people, family, and friends with them. And you're talking about withering away in the veterans' home. It's because they're alone. And we've allowed this virus to essentially break the chain of what we consider to be our community here. And that alone is unimportant to, I guess, some decision makers. The fact that we have such a lack of interest and callousness of the fact that 200,000 of our fellow Americans have died from a preventable disease. How is that possible? So now you understand why we're able to have a pool party at Poipu and nobody cares. We've lost our way in some sense. And I don't know the reason for that. I have no simple solutions for that. But we have to get back to feeling that sense of community so we can tackle this together, which is again why I think we need to be more vocal and active. and maybe we can have some socially distant sit-ins at our county offices or governor's offices. We need to sort of be more in the face of this than we currently are.
Yep.
Well, now the Honolulu opened up tier one. You can actually go out and hang out at the state capitol every day, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. We don't have much time. October 15th is right around the corner, and it's going to be here. I don't think he's going to change his mind. I think the commitments were made. Flights have been sold. Seats have been sold. And I think they're rolling the dice. And unfortunately, I think they're going to lose this one. And a lot of people are going to get sick and die. And call it fear mongering, call it what you want. But just see what's happening everywhere else. See what we just went through a month ago or so.
For the people who are fear mongering, I don't want any of this to happen. I certainly don't want it to happen. I care about my neighbors. I care about my son and his classmates and the teachers and all the people that I've come to love on this island. But I also want to be realistic too. I pay attention to information and data as the rest of my colleagues who are in medicine do. And it's those of us who are going to continue to take that charge to help ensure that we're protected. And we are relying on the rest of you who may not have degrees in science and medicine to listen to those who are trying to tell you, who have been screaming, in fact, into the void since the beginning of this year, what it will take for us to help intervene with this virus. We're relying on you to be the hammer with the information that we provide. Again, what I said at the beginning is we can no longer afford to worry about hurt feelings anymore. I'm sure I've burned a few bridges tonight. I don't care. I want everybody to be safe, even the people who don't like what I have to say. So at the end of the day, we need to continue to test. We need to urge our politicians to test. It's vitally important that we test everybody coming off that plane multiple times before their vacation kills us, frankly.
Yep. Because I
right.
think that's so true. Without those tests and without doing the test, you're basically staring into a like a blank chalkboard. You want to start somewhere, but you need something to start from. And if you don't have any kind of results coming back to you one way or the other, you really can't do anything. I like to say also, Doc, and I appreciate what so much what you're saying tonight, and it's because um, we talk about that void, from early onset with the show being the way it is. We talked about testing mega times, but everything came down to economics. Oh, we don't have enough tests. I mean, crying out loud.
Let's address that. Actually, that's the
Yeah,
elephant in the room. That's complete and absolute. Can I swear on this?
yeah,
Yes.
sure, yeah, sure,
It's complete and absolute bullshit. We
yeah.
have the resources, we have the capacity, and actually, as the world has taken care of this, we have excess capacity. We have discussions with major world renowned universities who have capacity and are willing to help, yet nobody calls them. Why? Why is this happening? It's complete bollocks. And part of the impediment, quite frankly, was the Department of Health. I don't know what the hell is going on in the Department of Health. They had the absolute wrong leadership. Hopefully, that transition has been dealt with. But every single one of the membership in the Department of Health have towed the line.
Hmm.
It's beyond comprehensible, um, and it's just very frustrating to watch. We have a need to hold our leadership in whatever position accountable, from the politicians at the state level to our Department of Health officials who are supposed to be charged with taking care of the people of this island, not taking care of special interests, and business interests.
Well, just last night, didn't we use the words, Mel, the famous words of that one historian, Charles Iona? His famous words were lip service. Didn't we talk about lip service last night?
Yeah.
That's what it's coming down to. Sometimes you say certain things at a certain time, you'll catch a certain amount of people, and you start playing on the emotions. But then, when the shit starts to hit the fan and all hell break loose, everything starts to become obscured at the time. It's like, where the hell? And it's lip service. And I did. I did do a post where I hope people think in this election, because the ballots haven't come out. If you feel you've been getting lip service and you need to make a change, I for one, whether Democrat, Republican, I look at the person. I don't care about the party, because sometimes the party does more wrong than good in some ways. But I'm telling people, look at the person. If the person is giving you so much lip service, hey, it's between you and your conscience how you gonna vote, because you want change. And if you keep the same people in all the time, you're never gonna get that change. You got to give somebody else a chance. Give them a chance.
I
Put an X next to something else. Put an X next to a different name.
I've never been through a crisis like this, where there was so much silence from your elected officials. I mean, I'm talking from the county level, and I'm talking about all the islands.
Well,
County
let's
level.
let's be fair. Okay, let me sort of couch this because I think it's an important part of the discussion. If you were to talk to a regular, quote unquote, regular person, so this is a non-science, non-medical person, this is highly technical what we're talking about. How many people have really thought about, virus and reproduction times and PCR test thresholds and what is a nasopharyngeal swab? That's not a normal part of our daily existence. It is now. But all of the people in charge are only as good as the people advising them, right? You as a politician trust the people around you, and if the people around you don't know and the people around them don't know, how can we go forward?
Doc, I would agree with that up to maybe 3 months ago. I think, because by
I
now,
agree with that actually.
yeah, I
I
mean,
agree with that.
by now, I'm sorry, you cannot watch a show, you cannot turn on your TV, you cannot
Sure.
turn on your computer and not get, I mean, I can understand the layperson.
At the beginning, you're absolutely right. By now, there's no
Yeah,
excuse. No
not
excuse.
for leaders, lay people, single moms, single dads that's got stuff to do and 2 and 3 jobs. Absolutely. I don't expect them to be watching Mel and Charlie show every night or whatever. But elected officials at all levels, after about the third or fourth month, when people started dying, I'd be start doing my own independent research. And so as of this moment now, I think they should anyway. Every single elected official should have some idea of what needs to be done, or they should have an opinion. And Doc, if the opinion of the council person or the legislator is in agreement with the governor, then say it and defend it. But to just be quiet, oh man, it just bugs me because I
Yeah.
have not seen anything much come
I
out.
think there's a lot of uncertainty about politics is a big thing here, and there's a lot of uncertainty about how to either support or not support perhaps the governor's initiatives. How to collectively sort of come back with some proposals that are sort of against the grain. There's a lot of sensitivities happening right now. We don't have the luxury of that anymore. We just don't. Whether or not
No.
October 15th happens doesn't really matter. This is an ongoing discussion. We should have implemented so many things in the past several months. Let me just say, when exactly was it that we heard that a city in China of 11 million people was closed down, shut down? That was my red flag. I mean, I had been monitoring it. I'm a virologist. I pay attention to all the outbreaks in the world. But that was when I turned to my business partner and I said, "This is not good. This is really not good." And once we started having spread in the U.S., I turned to him and said, "Also, the cat's out of the bag. We cannot contain this anymore." That we've had since the beginning of this year every indication that this is serious, and we've never taken it seriously. I mean, as serious as it needed to be.
I think where the mistake happened, again, I go to my primary care physician. He tells me what's wrong with me. I gotta believe him. He's my doctor, right? We all were glued to the TV listening to the health director, because we all believe he knows what he's talking about. And everything he advised us, along with his epidemiologist, we know now was wrong. But yet, going through, going into the fourth quarter and marching down the field and getting to the 1 yard line, we already knew they wasn't going to score a touchdown because everything they did was wrong already. But by then it was too late because why? It had overcome everything else. Because was the most important thing that we had at our disposal, or we were supposed to have at our disposal, was the contact tracing. And even that, they continually lied. And even after it was put in the news that they still claimed that they had X number of contact traces, they only had 10. It's things like that were in the thing.
I'm pretty sure that after this discussion today, that there will be a few people who won't answer my calls. I asked my son. I said to him yesterday as I was taking him to school, I said, I have a dilemma because everything I've done until now has been with the sensitivities of politics in my lens. And he said, well, how do you feel about that? And I said, we're not moving in ways that we should be moving. And my son basically advised that I should just speak to my heart. And so I really do appreciate you allowing me to come here tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, online, offline, doesn't matter. I'm a resource for you, and I try to make myself to be a resource for the island in general. I have a very unique expertise that happens to be relevant right now, and we're doing our best to help out in my own way to make sure that we can go forward and have somewhat of a normal life together.
Well, thank you for spending the hour with us. I just said, have you had a chance to talk to our mayor at all?
I have not talked to our mayor directly. No, I've been a part of the group, the COVID discussion group that has talked to him on occasion. So, I've been sort of in the background on that. I'm okay with being supportive, I guess, in that role. But, we need to see, I think, generally, and I'm not picking on our mayor, but just generally, we need to see a different type of engagement from our politicians. How is it that a group of private individuals is being relied on so much to come up with the solutions that our state should be coming up with? How is that reasonable? How is that possible? We have expertise and we can provide some benefit and some asset, but that's not our job. That's not our job. So there needs to be a different type of communication, I think, generally with all of our politicians going forward in our Department of Health, for example. We have been met on occasion with some level of hostility from people, I guess, who feel challenged or threatened by what we're doing. And all we're trying to do is provide resources that, frankly, they don't have access to or don't care to have access to. I'm not sure which. But, we're here to help, and we're trying the best that we can. So, no, the short answer to your question is no, I have not directly talked to him.
What you just said is so important in one aspect. And that is, these politicians, the advice they're getting is free. Very important advice, like from individuals like yourself. Why? Because you or I, we didn't get elected, they did. So we're just trying to give them information to help them really at this junction to really save face, because everything is kind of swirling out of control. It's like a helicopter that just lost its tail rotor. You won't be able to land the thing. It's coming down fast. And, I don't know why they don't want to heed some of the advice. You don't have, like Mel and I say, we inform and educate. If you can use the information, fine. If you can't, throw it away. Tomorrow's another night. There's more information coming. But it's there for you. It doesn't cost you anything. And, we always tell these guys, hey, the information is here. You got a lot of experts coming on. Why don't you listen to them? It doesn't hurt to try something. Because now...
You don't even have to worry about trying it. It's not like the things that I've talked about or even the discussion group have talked about aren't supported by data, with data. Right. There's information there. We're not coming up with this by ourselves. To the credit of one of the members who's an MD out of University of Washington, that we're blessed to have him on this island, worked with a world-leading sort of epidemiologist to model the consequences of the testing program we suggested. We didn't come up with this by ourselves. So it's I'm beside myself understanding how you can be provided all of the information that's referenced and yet cannot apply the critical analysis necessary to develop your own plan. Don't just look at Johns Hopkins plan, which frankly is not much of a plan as I've gone through it. It's more like recommendations. It's a white paper. Develop a plan for Hawaii. Don't just stand up at the podium and tell us time and time again, yeah, we're following Johns Hopkins recommendations. That's not acceptable. We need a Hawaii specific, Hawaii derived plan.
Mhm.
That's what we need, and we're not getting it.
Right.
You know, I am actively, and I know we have a good friend, Leona Bruin, who keeps challenging me to find somebody with an opposing view. I'm trying. You
I'll oppose
know,
you.
there's a lot of chatter, but you know, I mean, Doc, you're one of many. We've had, of course, Dr. Carroll. We've had doctors from Utah, Arizona. We've had the director general for the International Vaccine Institute from South Korea on our show. We have had Dr. T and Dr. Miskovich, and I
Yep,
forget most of the people we've had.
all brilliant
Every
people.
single person,
Yep,
every single person, although maybe a little different, the delivery, the information or the analysis is the same.
yep,
We
exactly.
got to test, we got to contact trace, we got to protect and be safe.
Yep.
Uh, and it's the standard, and they choose to ignore it. So, yeah, if you guys know anyone that wants to challenge the data and information that we've had on the show, don't just send me a name. Send me the contact info. Don't just go Google, and then send me the name. Send me the contact info. We're glad to have them on. We're glad. In fact, I'd love to have that person on with you, Doc. Ooh.
Oh, look, my blood pressure is high enough as it is. I don't need to pass out and die on your show. I'm
Yeah,
good.
no, no, please, no, no. But anyway, any closing comments, Doc, before you head off? Any
I just
battle
want
cry
you.
for the viewers?
I just want you and your listeners to all be safe, however that means to you. Please keep in mind that we live together. Take your community to heart, your neighbors, and understand that our behavior affects everybody: your children, your grandmas, your aunties and uncles, your friends. We are in all of this together. So please keep that in mind. I want to thank you again for having me on, and I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Doc. Somebody just said, Mel, you do have an opposing view, Governor Ige. Well, we invited him. He declined. Charles, any closing thoughts, bro?
Well, as always, I like to extend my warm aloha to Dr. Alderete. Thank you so much for making the time. I want to send a big shout out to your lovely wife for allowing you to come on and
Yeah, and
for
allowing that picture apparently.
yeah. But thank you. To our viewers out there, thank you so much. Got a lot of good comments tonight. Again, our objective is to educate and inform. But like the doc said, today I got a lot of good comments, and if I may, Mel, I'd like to read something from a viewer that wrote to me, if that's okay,
Absolutely.
because this is from you viewers out there, and I had to humble myself when I read this because I thought that we're just like two ex cops that love doing what we do, and this person wrote this to Mel and I. She says, "Dear Uncle Charlie and Mel, our family owns a small little mom and pop bakery in Wahiawa on Oahu. We are known for our brownies, and many people who visit Kauai will often tell us that it reminds them of the old Kapa'a bakery on Kauai. Anyway, the reason I'm writing to is to thank both of you for being the voices of the people of Hawaii, as well as for the small businesses island wide. It is very frustrating, disheartening, and troubling few months. As a small business, we felt that our government is truly letting us down and letting us get swallowed up by the big box stores here on Oahu as much as we can. We've been going out of our way to support the small local businesses. The government is going to do what they choose to do, and it's definitely not to support small businesses. I've been listening to your show for almost a month or so. I've even mentioned your show to our followers to tell them if they want to learn more about the current COVID situation, that they should watch your show as well. I just want to thank you for your honesty you bring to the light during these dark times. It is so hard to hear how secretive and dishonest whole government system has been during this COVID pandemic. We want to steal Mayor Carl Kami and bring him to Oahu. We need some real leadership here, someone who cares about the people and not just about the money. Sadly, we pretty much given up on our government to protect us. We shut our bakery down a week or so ago before they ordered the second lockdown, as we and our employees were afraid and did not want to catch COVID or give COVID to any of our customers. Everything they do makes no sense, but we are at their mercy. It's just really sad and heartbreaking to see businesses and business have to permanently shut their doors. We thank you for all the laughter and tears, but mostly especially for discovering the truth through this crazy time. Keep up the good work. Sending you lots of love and aloha. This is from one of our readers. So that's why I want to personally thank all of our viewers out there. It's people like you that keeps, well, myself and Mel going. So thank you very, very much.
That's Kilani Bakery
Yep.
in Wahiawa.
I have to go there next time we are able to travel.
Yeah, I know. My wife just said that's the best brownies. That's the best.
Definitely have to go there.
Well, the worst part of all of this, Doc, and I think you've talked about this several times tonight, is just how avoidable this was, how we wouldn't be in these situations of opening and closing if we had just did what we needed to do early on. And yeah, yes, I'm upset. I'm pissed off. Yes, it's a lot of bullshit that we've been told and fed, and yet, we as a people, like you said, Doc, it's time. It's time to stand up and rise and make noise. It really is, because we get so many viewers that sees this, and we complain, and we share, we inform, and thanks to people like you, Doc. I mean, if not for people like you, Charlie and I know, would never be on. The show would be done if it wasn't for people like you that come and not afraid to share from the heart. Your son is you raised him right. I don't know how old he is, but you raised him right, man. Speak from
Yep.
I tell my kids that all the time. Who cares what they say? You speak what's on your heart, and you will not go wrong. I mean, that's just what all of us have a responsibility to do that. And the time has come. I believe you, Doc. I think the time has come, because the days, the October 15 is coming, and it's going to be here soon enough. So the best thing you can do right now for all of you is to share the shit out of this video. Share the hell out of this thing tonight. I know, I can tell how many people share. Get so many less shares than viewers. That means a lot of you not clicking the share button. Don't be embarrassed to share it. Share this video tonight. That's the best thing you could do. This was probably one of the most intriguing, motivating guests that we've had, as far as the combination of information, data, facts, and some motivation. As you can tell, I'm all pumped up now. So share this. Share right now. Doc, thank you so much. Viewers, thanks again for joining us once again. And of course, tomorrow night we're back to the campaign trail. Tomorrow night we got Arrow Kanashiro, Luke Evzelin, and Billy DeCosta. Friday, Kipukai, Mason, and Bernard Cavallo. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Please join us. But don't forget to share this video tonight. We don't get paid. This is not YouTube. We don't get more money the more people watch. But it's vital that this information gets into everybody's head tonight. Okay, do that for me, please. And then Kilani's, if you don't mind, send some brownies to Kauai. Send them. Send them COD, Charlie. Send them to Charlie. He'll pay for the postage.
Well, I'll eat them first, and I'll let you know how the thing tastes.
Nice.
Doc, you stay safe. Keep up the good work, my friend.
Aloha,
We will
gentlemen.
be in touch. Love you
Thank you.
guys. Stay safe. God bless. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Aloha.
Aloha.